Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Nerd Soup. I am Reuben, joined here today with Aaron, and we are back to review Severance Season 2, Episode 3, Who is Alive? Ominous title. I'm excited to talk about it. But before we get into today's episode, you can listen to this wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, all those fun places. And if you want more Nerd Soup, you should check out our Patreon page where we review movies. We did A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan movie. We did Wicked and Gladiator 2. And we also had a podcast where we talked about God. So that's fun. And also follow us on social medias at Nerd Soup, at Beau Soup, at Nerd Soup Monkey. Let's get into it. Severance Season 2, Episode 3, Who is Alive? Like any good title, I think that you can take this quite literally and also look at it from a deeper perspective when it comes to the severed characters, because in one moment you could be shut off. Like, I keep thinking, Heliar, the last thing she experienced was that gala, and she's just, well, we believe, it's a fan theory that she hasn't been turned back on. So I think that's kind of fascinating to think about. But overall, I thought the episode, once again, really strong, and almost felt like it could have been a season finale, especially with the way it ended. I was surprised that they got into Mark going for the reintegration so quickly. It feels like something that, I know they tease it in season 1, going back and forth, obviously his conversations with Petey, but he doesn't hesitate. As soon as he finds out that his wife is alive, he says, yeah, let's do it. And a lot of good stuff this episode with all the characters getting back inside of Lumen. It feels more like season 1, getting into the swing of things, the day-to-day schedule of their work lives, but now the characters taking more of an initiative to really crack this code, figure out this mystery. And I thought it was just another great episode that once again leaves you with a great cliffhanger. Season 1, they built up to a lot of these mysteries, but now it feels like we're getting a new reveal every episode. So
yeah, like you said, another great episode. Like you, I'm surprised they did a reintegration this early. Season 2, Episode 3, like I'm trying to picture in my head what the rest of the season's going to be like now, because Mark, we'll see how his reintegration goes. She did say she got better somehow. I don't know if she's just been practicing like on an operation board.
No, I'm good now. You killed my best friend.
Nah, yeah. That was his fault though.
You were his best friend. He just said you were a really good friend. So we're getting technical.
Yeah, it's been fun kind of trying to picture out the rest of the layout for the season, because Mark being integrated now, this is a complete game changer. Does he try to, do what we suspect Helly's doing and hide it from the rest of the group? And it seems like the group itself is becoming, obviously, if Heliar is not Heliar, Dylan being manipulated by using his Audi's wife, and now Irving seems to be like his number one asset now, because he's like fucking Nancy Drew, finding all the clues, figuring out what the elevator's like going down.
Right.
What is it? Exports? That's not good.
Dude, yeah, just the reveal that they would send down the things that they made. What the hell are you actually making in O&D? It feels like O&D has some secrets now too. Or what's fun about this show is that characters can be engaging in activities and not really, well, that's quite obvious, not knowing what they're actually doing. But the true implications of it, I don't know, it could be really horrifying.
Yeah. And they're the least, look at the GOAT folks. They kind of have like their own little cult going on, which is pretty sick.
Right, yeah. When we talk about macro data refinement being kept out of the loop, they look like they're in a totally different century.
Are you here to kill me? No.
And like you said, it's almost like a pagan society. So even them knowing who Miss Casey was, I didn't expect them to be on that same level of communication when Mark is talking about the wellness center. What the hell is that? But you know what gives it away that they are kept up to date is that there's a vending machine. Yeah. You have all these rolling hills of grass, but there's still the shitty Lumen snacks in the background.
No, not shitty anymore. Lumen's
not
listening.
Shitty anymore. That was your favorite part of the tutorial, the new snacks.
Nothing like when a vending machine gets new snacks. That's a fucking.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
Like even for them. For me outside, like in school, when they used to put new shit in the vending machine, it was a big day. And for them, it's probably like Christmas.
No, yeah, it's a game changer. It's like reorganizing your room. But sometimes they take away your favorite snack. Like I'll never forget when they took away the butter cookies.
Oh, when they try to go healthy?
They sold out. Yeah, they sold out. Yeah. Thanks, Obama.
Yeah, come on.
They hired her at Lumen. She's in charge of the snacks. Well, she used to be. Then she got fired.
Now RFK is going to take away our Uncrustables. Just let me eat. I'm stocking up like the fucking apocalypse.
But that whole, like, them getting to that department, the mammalians nurturable department, first of all, the title is so ridiculous. And having to crawl through the corridor. And then Gwendolyn Christie, don't judge a book by its cover, because I assumed big lady, she's going to be mean and scary. And she was a little bit scary, but it was more so her being frightened of what Lumen might do to them, what Milchick might do to them for the communication across departments. So at first I was afraid, and especially when she gathers all of the folk that she was with, and they encircle Mark and Helly. I'm like, are they going to eat them? See, even me, you know, they in season 1 they did all the conspiracies about the different departments and that they're cannibals, but as soon as they were cornered, I immediately went to cannibalism. Like, oh my god, they're gonna tear them limb from limb.
Dude, at first I thought the guy in the goat skin, I guess, was the guy from last episode, the big guy. Forgot his name.
Oh, okay.
But I thought that was so fucking funny if that was him.
That would have been super funny, actually.
Yeah.
The way he was creeping on him. He's just always there.
No, that's fucking scary. Even seeing that kind of like landscape with the, like you said, the grass and the mountains and the goats, but in a fucking dead corporate environment is so fucking funny.
Yeah, dude, it is so funny. And the show does such a good job of placing you in these tense situations and then hitting you with a joke.
See? Pouchless. Proves nothing.
And I mentioned that it never clashes. It never feels out of place. One of the funniest bits that they do that's also very unsettling is when the board communicates with one of their employees. Like the scene with Milchick and Natalie. It's just that static, eerie static noise.
Dude, Blackface Kier was fucking wild.
A corporation is trying to be more inclusive, and it just comes off as extremely offensive.
Oh my.
It's so funny, dude. And then Natalie having to say, I got the same gift, and, you know, I found it very moving.
Well, that's a great moment between those two characters, because Natalie, we talk about Milchick's like creepiness because of his big smile, but you just know the underlying like motivations behind that character. She's been pretty much a mystery up until this point, and her smile is just haunting. I mean, it's a great smile, but in the setting that they put it in, and those eyes are just like unwavering. The moment between those two characters, like there's kind of a break in that with her where like they kind of have this look where it's like, yeah, I know this is fucked up, but like the board's listening, so don't say anything.
Right, yeah. And it feels like there is a contrast between Natalie and Milchick and Coobel, where Milchick and Coobel, there seem to be some cracks, some disillusionment with what they're doing. Whereas Natalie seems to be game for anything. Like she can acknowledge that it's uncomfortable and offensive, but she's willing to accept it because that's her job, that's her duty. And even when she's having that conversation with Rickon, which I also found pretty disturbing. I don't know if Rickon is going to betray us here. It kind of felt like they were flirting with each other too, which I didn't like. But yeah, Natalie seems to be way more on board. She's not questioning, you know, what she's being told to do. She's just going along with it. Whereas Milchick, you could see the frustration and the disgust on his face. Where they gave him like an Elseworlds comic, and the canon has changed. It's just ridiculous.
Someone put the meme of it was the Innies getting Rickon's book, and it was his writing was this fire.
Oh, that's really funny. Yeah,
dude, he's like Innie Shakespeare, man, or Karl Marx.
And it's funny because his vibe is, he's just very quirky, and he just never seems to be having, he just never seems to be on the same wavelength with anybody else except for Natalie, where they're both you know, just so joyous in this conversation, in this back and forth, where Rickon can't even realize that even though he's against Severance, he's going to be used to manipulate them. Or maybe we're just not giving him enough credit. Maybe he sees this as a way to sort of trick Lumen and you know, hide those deeper messages within this book that they want to write for the Innies, which is also just such a funny concept that they're hiring him, that they're going to hire him to make another book specifically for the Innies, a tactic of manipulation.
Yeah, like I don't think he's a bad guy, but he does love getting heaps of praise put upon him.
Right, yeah.
That's like the easy way to manipulate him, tell him that he's this inspiration, this basically figure of myth within Lumen. and that will just go straight to his head.
That's exactly right. We've seen it that they manipulate the people inside of Lumen, outside of Lumen, now not even their employees. So they just know the right things to say and the right things to do in order to get people under their thumb, whether they know it or not.
And they got me like on my fucking toes because when Dylan's wife came in, I'm like, that's not his wife. Ended up being his wife.
Dude, the whole conversation, even when she's like, Seth said this would be weird. I thought that was strange that she knew Milchek's real name. Even if you're a wife of an employee, you would still think you call him Mr. Milchek. But that familiarity made me think, okay, this is somebody that Lumen has employed.
Nice sack.
Sorry?
But it looks like no, that is his real family. But I do wonder if she's lying to any Dylan, talking about, oh, on the outside, Dylan's just kind of a loser and he can't keep a job. Inside of Lumen, he has purpose. Or that could just be real life.
Nah, she's getting at his ass, Audi Dylan. It's like a therapy session for her. Broke, no bitches.
You want to at least know your man can cheat.
Yeah.
Like, God damn. It like opens up the possibility of a love triangle where maybe Gretchen falls more for any Dylan because he's more responsible, he's good at his job, and he's more committed. And maybe on the outside, Dylan G is, just, he's not like the worst person in the world, but it's, typical marriage where you don't have that same spark, that same love anymore. So maybe it's Gretchen who initiates the next meeting. Like, hey, Lumen, I want to see any Dylan because I love him more.
Well, someone mentioned on Reddit, like, the fact that she works nights and he's severed for half the day is kind of fucking heartbreaking.
That can't be good.
No.
I can't imagine that speaks to a healthy marriage.
Yeah, so it was also funny when he thought he lived on a ranch.
Dylan G, the farmer. That was just so creepy, dude. The way he walks into the security room and it's just a picture of him and his 3 children, or a picture of him and his wife. Were his children in that picture? Or no, maybe she gives him the picture. Oh,
yeah, she gives him the picture.
Yo, it was mad funny too when she says Seth and Miss Wong over the intercom is like, please refrain from sensitive information. And Gretchen's like, who is that? And then she checks back in like, Miss Wong.
Okay, who is that child? Miss Wong.
Just have to confirm.
Yeah, she's
so silly.
I hate that child. She doesn't realize she's a child, and like, you're telling me what to do. You're a child.
That would be funny if she had no idea that she was actually a child. It's just
Where are your parents? School. Do you make more than me?
Yeah, what are they paying you? Over here getting insecure because a fucking child is making more than you.
Dude, that's how I feel like when like you see like these young kids or streamers who are like driving around in Lambos. Like, God.
Oh yeah, speed. Bro lives
Yeah.
like a fucking Egyptian pharaoh.
It's like the most famous person on earth, and like I'm just like sitting here in my shitty apartment. Like, okay, that's fun for you, I guess.
Yeah, but that I kept thinking, man, like this isn't his real life. But then they went into the real world. But even Dylan, we kind of hinted at this, or the show hinted at this, that there would be a divide because Irving is trying to talk to Dylan, telling him about the communication between his innie and his outie. That there's this subconscious messaging here about this elevator door, and Dylan really doesn't care. I mean, it was always difficult in season 1 for Irving to get Dylan to be more accepting of O&D and other departments, but that was different because there was a lot of uncertainty there. Now Dylan knows, and he's still choosing to do his own thing, and it's because of that opportunity to see his family. So I found that to be interesting, that wedge between these two characters that grew really close in season 1 and had that great scene together in episode 1 of season 2. I don't like when the boys are fighting.
No, it's not. It makes me sad. And yeah, we kind of saw that coming where they're going to use his family to kind of manipulate Dylan into maybe not, breaking up the team a little, divide and conquer. It is interesting for Dylan because he really hasn't seen the outside. He was stuck in the control room during their breakout. So, I mean, for him, given his situation, his life, what he knows to be real, like this is a hard thing for him to kind of separate with. And even with reintegration too, for Mark, it's an easy decision because he wants to find out find out what happened to his wife. But for some of the other characters, maybe it's just not that simple. Dylan's kind of disappointed by his outie. Why would he want to reintegrate?
Yeah, and on the outside, it seems to be, things are working well for him. If he's in this unhappy marriage and he gets to be severed and she works nights and they don't really have to see each other, why would his outie want to reintegrate? For Mark, it's, there's something driving him to that. It's the same thing that drove him to be severed. It's the same thing driving him to be reintegrated. And maybe that will eventually happen for all these characters. Yeah, but for Dylan right now, not so much.
Dude, that jump scare was fucking crazy when he's trying to burn that message into his eyes and she just in front of the car.
Jesus Christ.
She really just be appearing like Batman. She's like, hey, I'm here now. No, that did startle me.
That's pretty genius. This was a pretty genius plan by them, yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering why he was counting, but she's like, yeah, that, you just wasted an entire episode. That's not going to work. Oh, yeah, your wife is alive. That's all he needed.
Yeah.
And I thought the way that they handled the reintegration visually was awesome. The way that, using the machine to awaken parts of the brain that have been severed, to activate that part of the brain, and then seeing the two lines match up, it was so satisfying. It was like when you want the loading screen to hit the corner of the display. It was just so satisfying when they matched up. It was awesome to watch, especially the questions sort of warming him up, asking questions that the innie and the outie would both know, and then dropping that bomb there at the end. What's your first memory? And I thought the way that they just shot him into being on the table, cutting back and forth with him being reintegrated was genius. And like I said, that could have been season 2 finale, the last shot, and season 3 it's going to be Mark reintegrated. But like you said, how are they going to handle this for the rest of the season? Because there are so many different ways that they can go with it. And just Mark on a personal level, how is he going to handle all this new information now?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see because, like we said, like obviously with Petey, I'll trust her. She said she got better, and Petey didn't exactly follow the protocol too well. But does he keep it a secret from the rest? Does he tell them right away? How does he? Like Adam Scott. I mean, these are going to be, and I have no reason to believe he's not going to fucking nail it. But like, if he does nail it, like switching between those, we've seen him make those switches before, but it's going to be back and forth. Like with Petey, just at any time you're going back to Mark Stout or you're going back to your any Mark, like it's going to be quite a performance to tackle for Adam Scott to kind of nail that confusion, the changing in personalities or the way you conduct yourself or try to. Like if you're, depending on how, well, going off of what we've seen with reintegration, Petey says, the memories are kind of scattered where it feels like a lifetime ago, some of the moments that he had in the office. Is he going to be more Mark Stout inside of Lumen than he is Mark S? And how is he going to be able to kind of disguise the fact that he's reintegrated, especially from Lumen as a whole?
Right, yeah, because with Mark, they've made the distinction between his two personalities, even though they are the same person, but the voice changes, the demeanor changes, the mannerisms change. So I think it's going to be difficult for Adam Scott, but also for the writers. And just based on the reviews for the full season, it looks like they're going to nail it. But I think that is going to be difficult to decide, when is he going to be Mark Scout? When is he going to be Mark S? When is it appropriate in a scene-by-scene basis? And I imagine also, the rules that Petey didn't follow to successfully reintegrate, that Mark in the beginning is going to want to follow those rules step by step. But maybe there comes a point where in order to find out what happened to Gemma or figure out a sensitive piece of information, he needs to break those rules and sort of push this reintegration to its absolute limits. And maybe that has some serious drawbacks. So I think it's just a really fun concept. And we mentioned it at the top of the review, for them to go for this so early in the season. It's bold. It's bold, and it's something that I didn't see coming, but I think it's starting to feel like, yeah, this is the appropriate way to go about it. And Mark now, like you said, he has the chance to give one of the all-time great performances in TV history if he's going back between those two personalities. Because even when you compare him to Helly, I think her game plan going in, if that is Helena and not Helly R, it's just like, keep it low key. I'm kind of following Mark here. I'm following his lead, and that's how I can get away with this. With Mark, it's a bit more difficult when you're leading the pack, and we've seen the arc that he's been on as Mark S, where he's gone from the obsequious lapdog to now like Cesar Chavez. He's the fucking, he's the one rallying the troops. Not only does he have to deal with that, but that mixed with reintegration could get really, really messy.
It's also interesting with Milchick and Coobel, like Coobel. Anything has to go right. Or like if they ultimately want to achieve what they do, they might need some inside help. And whether that comes from maybe Helena warming up to the innies and realizing all the wrong that her family and company have done. Maybe it's Milchek, with the portraits he was given. And, I think as he settles into this new position, he might just be kind of turned away from all of what Lumen is doing there. And then obviously Coobel trying to go get back into good graces with Lumen, but basically being shunned again. I don't know. I mean, she thought that they were going to
Yeah, she got spooked.
It seems like there's a window for them to get some help from people in the know at Lumen as well.
Yeah, that it's because they mention Rigabi, played by Karen Aldridge, the woman helping Mark with reintegration. She did work for Lumen at one point, specifically on the Severance procedure. So I'm just wondering, what has Coobel, for a character who's prone to all these outbursts and seems to have, no problem getting down and dirty, what has her so spooked about the board? I think that's another interesting element that they've yet to really pull back the curtain on. Who are these people? What are they capable of? Obviously, what are they doing at Lumen? And why is somebody as scary as Harmony Coobel so afraid of them? She takes one look at him and decides, I'm getting the fuck out of here. And even going back to the idea that the title has, multiple meanings. We have that moment in the car where she decides to drive back and she's looking at the breathing tube. The death of her mother, how is that motivating? How is the death of her mother motivating her actions? In which way? What's the connection here? We know that she grew up in the cult and she clearly worships Kier one way or another. But how is her mother connected? How is that also connected with the board? Is she afraid that, there's a knowledge or there's memories that they're going to take from her of her mother? Something to keep an eye on. The mommy issues, the familial issues throughout the show seem to drive a lot of the characters' motivations.
Well, even the way she worded it, like, let's get a reset,
Interesting, right.
And even the board is alluded to a little strangely. I've seen theories that maybe they're a culmination of past Egans, like their consciousness is somehow remaining, and maybe that's some of the work they're doing. Yeah, it is very interesting.
Whatever they're fucking doing, man, with the goats, it leads me to believe that they're guinea pigs, like we use mice, that, in order to successfully do whatever the fuck they're doing to people, they have to first do it to goats, and then they send these people out into the real world. Maybe I saw people talking about possible corporate espionage, that obviously Lumen is a huge corporation, and it's not only what's happening inside of their headquarters, but outside that is also very vital. It would also be funny if they introduced like a Chinese Lumen that's doing all of this for 90% less of the cost. They're just way more efficient. And Mark's no longer special. Like, no, the macro data refinement in Shanghai, dude, is just blowing you guys out of the water. What the fuck are they doing, man? With the elevator and the goats and the brain, all this shit about the brain waves, it's giving me a headache.
Yeah, and I don't really know what Coobel does at this point. It seems like Lumen is her whole life. And even when she was
driving away at the end, what was she going to do something that would hurt Lumen? I don't know.
Yeah, can she spin it like, in order to save Lumen, I need to take down Lumen and maybe I'll take over somehow, because
she's trying to do the Kendall Roy.
It's interesting. Like, it seems like that's all she has, and she just keeps getting pushed away and not getting what she wants. Does that turn her to just be completely anti-Lumen?
Talk about a monster that you would want on your side, right? Someone who knows the ins and outs, assumedly knows a lot of their secrets. They get Coobel on their side.
That'll be a big signing.
Yeah, no, for real, dude. That'd be like DeMarcus Cousins on the Warriors. Like, yo, are you fucking kidding me? Signing for cheap?
Yeah, they get it on a fucking vet minimum.
Come on, man. I mean, I know she's coming off a tough season finale, but still Harmony Coobel. She could put the ball in the basket. And Milchek, too. I know Milchek's not as plugged in, but I think because there is like an inherent sweetness, I think, to Tremel Tillman that's really coming out in season 2, to where, when he's gifted that the offensive portraits and the frustration. Like I said, there's a lot of moments so far in season 2 that speak to that underlying humanity that is there for that character. But I just don't find him to be, as valuable as someone like Coobel, but still something to keep an eye on. I also thought, the hallway scene between Mark and Helly was super awkward. And the way they framed it too, when Mark's back is to the camera and you see Helly, it looks like a confrontation, even though it's not. He still asks her, are you comfortable with doing this? Helly we think that she wants to experience what's it like to be in love, but it's hard to just step into that role and think that the chemistry is going to be the same. And I think that awkwardness speaks to that, because it was like, is it love eyes, or are they like waiting for the other one to do something, to make a move or to say something? It's just strange. It's not where their relationship should be in this moment. They should feel way more comfortable in situations like that, in close proximity, going in for the kiss. There shouldn't be really any hesitation. So I found that to be very awkward.
Yeah, she just seems awkward, especially this episode.
Yeah,
even
just
like
kind of, just kind of there.
Yeah, like especially with Mark taking the lead.
Careful, there's poop.
It is his mission, so to speak, because they're trying to find his wife, but we're used to Helly being the catalyst for all their rebellion. And it seems like
Right.
she's just taking kind of like a backseat.
And I also, Irving and Felicia catching up is so funny, because they've seen each other like 3 times. And yet, I guess when you're an innie, it's like dog years, At that point, you're old friends. And reminiscing about Bert and him showing her the sketches of Bert that he's been making. I enjoyed them as a pair. Very similar to the enjoyment I got out of Irving and Bert. Just 2 friendly people, 2 lonely people that are, desperate for some companionship, whether it be romantic or platonic. So I found that to be sweet. And then you kind of feel bad for a character like Felicia, saying that, she knew Bert for 6 years. God, in Lumen time, that's a fucking millennium.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, like, did they tell all the innies what they told like MDR? Like, are they considered, did they see the little video presentation? Did they know did they tell them there was a 5-month break?
Right. Yeah. You would think because of the contact they had with O&D, maybe.
It's just going to be like, we say it every week. I get a couple questions answered, but this opens up so many other doors where you really don't know what the next reveal is going to be. Obviously, they're going to try to get downstairs or find that elevator, but what does that lead to? Is it just another floor that's just a labyrinth that they have to navigate and figure out more clues and get to the bottom of this?
Right, yeah. And just have to keep complimenting them for going so quickly into reintegration, because I think that it could potentially throw the show out of whack, where it's just too confusing, not even from a viewer standpoint, but from the standpoint of the writers, of how to figure this out and make sure it makes sense, because they've done such a good job, I keep saying it, of making the show thoughtful and complex while also just being very digestible and easy to watch. Where, yeah, you have a lot of questions, there's a lot of mystery, but beat by beat, you're following along. You never feel like you're being overwhelmed by all of it. I imagine some people a little bit, but that's just sort of the nature of the show, and they've balanced it really well. Just another good episode. It's one of these shows that, God, you're just fucking itching for the next one, especially with this. It's like, damn, 3 episodes has felt like a season's worth of content.
No, I mean, I was kind of pissed at the cliffhanger because I wanted to, I'm like, God, it's going to be a tough week. But if they did that as a season finale, I don't know.
And then we got another 3-year wait.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to leave it there. Make sure you comment down below. Let us know what you thought about this episode of Severance, Season 2, Episode 3, Who is Alive? And we will be back next week for Episode 4, which is called Woe's Hollow. Can't wait for that, man. In the meantime, I'll continue watching Mad Men.
That's a nice little change up.
Yeah, change of pace, It's you go from a show that's really philosophical and challenging to a show that's super depressing. So I need something to balance me out. I need to watch something joyful and cheery.
Bar Rescue.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Not the first thing that came to mind, but...
Tapper comes in, they tell him the sob story. He gets them back on track. Then they fix the bar, but then you look it up online and they close 3 months after.
Oh, no. Okay, I just won't look it up.
Yeah, they don't show you that part.
It's like Googling a character of a new show you're watching, and the first thing it says is dies. The bar died? Fuck.
Yeah.
All right, well, guys, be ready for our Bar Rescue Revisited series. Should be fun.